Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead.
I saw Steve Jobs back in the 80s try to throw a programmer out the window at Apple headquarters. I saw Steve Jobs, in those days, the big computers, these big computers, throw a computer at a programmer. He was walking by his desk and he picked it up and he threw it at him. I saw Steve Ballmer try to break a chair. Different company, Steve Ballmer, Microsoft. Try to break a chair over a NetScum marketing guy. We used to go through, how they use bad words and how Musk's favorite word is fuck, his second favorite word is cunt. And he can't say a sentence without saying both words, although he's cleaned up his act in recent years, because they want to paint a legacy. They want, we show, I don't know if the slide's still there, a study came out from Harvard a couple years ago that high-performance people use, high-performance teams use vulgarity, metaphors, etc. All the things I've been saying for 30 years, and now they spent $11 million at Harvard to figure this out. And of course, the culture now is going the opposite. The woke, etc. And performance is going down. They're going to show the most productive 5-year period, 10-year period, 25-year period are not now. In the news this morning, I gave you the wrong article to print out, Kat, but anyway, Lloyd's profits fall as it prepares for mortgage arrears jump amid rising rates. The one I wanted to print out, but I fucked up, is that commercial real estate is about, the bubble is really burst already. The one I talked about yesterday, the Corona was good, well, for us it was terrific. But Corona was good or bad. It saved a lot of businesses because of the money. Some of the businesses in here, you got money for free and blah, blah, blah. But you should have gone under. Capitalism is survival of the fittest. And that's not what it's not. That is not the case anymore. It's not the survival of the fittest. It's survival of, what one-eyed, one-titted, one-armed black person can get up, or yellow or purple person can get up and cry the best. And that's not how capitalism around the world, got started, initiated, got started, and went on, etc. That's what was not what made, if America was great at one time, America great, etc. And so the whole system is ass backwards now. Just as in a lot of the commercials, like doing away with Mickey Mouse. Now, to me, that's the height of it. But not many people see it. And I talk to young people, and they argue with me about it. Going back and knocking down, this is one man's opinion, going down and knocking down statues of founding fathers of around the world because they were either directly or indirectly involved in slavery. A study's coming out, a whitewash, I believe, here in Britain, about the monies that were used to make or initiate Great Britain. Remember, I told you they ruled 2/3 of the planet with something called gunboat diplomacy. Well, Britain wasn't the first non-black or non-colored country to get involved in slavery. Portugal, Spain, everybody, and the dog, not everybody in the dog, but that's an exaggeration, but a lot of different countries were involved. And slavery started by the rich black nations, etc., and continent of Africa, selling their idea to sell off their slaves, and they went to Portugal, they went to the Netherlands, etc., and then the rest of the planet caught on. Well, fuck, we can make a lot of money, and of course, this country. When I say this country, I say Great Britain is based. The first wealth was slavery. It's an interesting statistic, since I'm directly or indirectly involved in Scottish politics now, and I might have mentioned that 40% of the ship captains that did slavery were Scottish. 60% of the accountants that kept track of the money were Scottish. Getting back to commercial real estate, more and more people are not paying their rent. Non-recourse money, remember? But you morons, rarely do I find anybody who's ever been in a seminar that's participated in non-recourse. It's been around about 300 years. Every law firm that's got more than 3 partners in it knows about it. Elon Musk stopped paying rent last October. What was it, July? You know how the newscast, breaking news. Well, I haven't seen it one time on breaking news. Because like Jack Nicholson says in the movie, you can't take the truth. And it's just getting worse and worse. You saw Steve last night, and I told you I wasn't the last person to see him alive, but I might have been one of the last persons to see him standing in Bangalore, India. And there's been 3 or 4 movies about him. Each movie is worse, not worse because it's not a nice theatrical presentation, worse telling you what he was really like. Although, rumor, I don't know if there's any truth in this, Apple, or Cook. Is it still Cook, the head of Apple? Yeah. Or the Apple Foundation or somebody has tried to keep the last movie out from being published. I don't know, because the one that you saw last night is one of the more recent ones. And it just talks about the kind of guy he was. And he wasn't such a pleasant guy. Comments, questions, queries about the Apple movie you saw, the Steve Jobs movie you saw last night. Yes, sir.
Do you recommend us to be that hard on our employees?
Harder!
Okay.
Some of you morons say you want to change the world. I think anybody that writes that down is well, you're already delusional, right? You're all living in a dual parallel. You want to change the world? Be like that. I've been struck off, as they say in this country, of Facebook since 2019, when I pasted and copied the headlines of an article from Vanity Fair magazine about Mr. Zuckerberg. And he says, I like to stay in the black, or not even the black and white, but in the gray, and I'll do whatever is necessary, illegal or legal, as long as I win. Within about 72 hours, I was struck off Facebook. When I went to Kathmandu, Nepal, to speak at one of the big universities there, and we had 400 or 500 people in a room that should only take 200. A typical Asian deal. And they locked the doors. They don't, to say it was a fire hazard, and Sally's running around trying to get the doors unlocked. I was asked that question and it was at engineering school. And I said, yeah, and they said, not Mr. Zuckerberg, because he was their idol, kind of, because he changed the world. There's no doubt. Whether he stole it from the Twinkle House morons or not, I don't know. It appears he did. He paid him $60 million or $160 million to get rid of him. But people that changed the world, Ford, they did ugly shit. I've had maybe one guy that was, if you want to call it ruthless enough, to change the world in 30 years. One, me. And I have. If I had gotten started when I was 20, like some of these guys, and I'd only be now 50, I could make sure they were teaching QLA in universities. But I've run out of runway. So about 20 years ago, I had already had the $1 trillion goal, which we're going to talk about goals this morning, but I didn't get started soon enough. And one of the things we talk about goals, you should set goals that you cannot accomplish in your lifetime. Cannot. Can't. But we got no change the world guys in this fucking room. You don't even want to change your diary for 1 week. You see the difference? I used to say, and I still say, change 1 billion lives and you'll be not only will you be a multi-billionaire, but you'll have a good chance of changing the world. 1 billion lives. Anybody in this? No, nobody in this room. We've had a few over the years that have goals that transcend their lifetime and transcend humanity as we see it today. But those are things that you will not accomplish in your lifetime. And you probably won't get credit until after 10, 20, 30 years after you're dead. What else about Steve? Sir.
Sorry, just a quick question. Is your guy still doing NEOM? Is your mentee still doing NEOM?
Absolutely. Yeah, that NEOM will change the world. $500 billion was the first tranche. Billion with a B. That's when I posted shortly thereafter the $1 trillion I had reached. I knew I was already at $1 trillion without that. But now I don't have to explain about it. If one guy did 500 billion, fuck. You know, can the other 2 million do 500? Yeah. So, it's an oxymoron now. But I'd already been $1 trillion before that. But, for you, the melon heads, well, fuck, if one guy did 500 billion, shit, maybe he did do $1 trillion. But I got a bunch of, not 500 billion level, but I got a bunch of guys at that end of the continuum, 50 billion, etc. NEOM, with teenage multimillionaire to 500 billion, the largest transaction in recorded history. Me, sitting right here. Now make sure when you go to the next seminar next week, you ask the guy or the gal or the it, what the fuck you done lately? How's your program working out? But you won't do that. Why anybody spends even 5 cents on anything other than it's, and a lot of the thing, even if it's not free on the web, you can steal it on the web. What else about Steve? Okay, moving right ahead. To help you, we used to give you these to keep track of cold calls, etc. They have them on your desk the last day. Waste of money. Some of you left them in your room, which I find not funny, it's sad, really. We used to give you, I told you, we used to give you gold pens and even Rolex watches. Nobody ever left a Rolex watch in their room. Nobody. But back at the beginning of the seminar times, the Rolex watches were less than 10 grand. Back in the 93, 94, 95. We've tried everything that And at the very beginning, I told you the seminars were for free. And the only thing that really worked was when we started charging money. And the more money we charge, the better the results got. This is one method that for Hall of Famers that I've used to create the dream team, do their first deal. 600 hours to put the qualified board together. 1,000 qualified individuals sourced to put the board together. And those are the sources below it. 300 professionals interviewed to put the rest of the dream team together. To get 7 strong core professionals, founding directors. 600 hours, 1,000 qualified individuals, 300 professionals. None of you will do that. I'll bet $1 million to a nickel. I have a framed 1 pound up there. See where I'm standing holding a check in the red frame picture up there? Just to the left of it, there's a small silver frame with a little note with a pound in it. You can see it. I bet one of the monkeys, one of you, trash, white trash. No, he was Indian trash. I'll bet you £1 million to 1 that you can't do this. He took the bet. Several months later, he sent me that 1 pound in a little note. How did you know I couldn't do it? And I would have paid the £1 million. And at that time, I was only doing this about 25 years. And I'd only been in business about 45 years. And after 25 years and 45 years of being in business, I knew he couldn't do it. I tell you, when I tell you the motherfucking sun's not coming up tomorrow morning, the motherfucking sun's not coming up tomorrow morning. And he paid the pound. I just know that certain things can't be done based on experience. Because there's no superhero, Superman or whoever those, I love those Marvel movies though, is not coming around the corner. If Jesus Christ or Buddha or whoever floated down through the ceiling, right here, I'd ask him for ID. Because I thought I had too much to drink last night. I'm delusional. Something's not right. There's just certain things. It's like, it's against the physics of the universe. I know can't be done. Just like in my opinion, I don't believe that the Israeli-Palestinian thing will ever get solved. They've been, from the Crusades 2,000 years ago, and then the Second Crusades 1,000 years ago to today. It's not going to get solved. There's certain laws of physics, and the laws of QLA, which are kind of like the laws of physics. There's certain things that aren't going to get done. But we have had in the past people do this. The last person to follow this similar program was a medical doctor. Okay, and he did all this. He did all this. But the system that has been developed in maybe the last 10 years is this. And although it's within QLA physics for everybody to do this, you still will not do this. We took 3 Hall of Famers, a guy that did 1,200 calls to do his first deal, a guy that did 1,500 calls to do his first deal, and a guy that did, actually one of those is a gal, and a guy that did 1,800 calls per year in a year. Now, I know you're not going to do 1,500, and I know you're not going to do 1,800, because based on the internet and all the shit now, you can do it quicker. So we've taken the 1,200 calls. This was actually a gal. That's 100 calls a month. Right? And I know you're only going to work 5 days a week. You're not going to work 7 days a week. There's no fucking way you are. So that's 25 a week. That's 5 cold calls a day. And you're not going to do it. Seems pretty simple, 5 cold calls a day, doesn't it? A retard. You can be in a comatose, brain-dead Irishman in a coma, right? But you're not going to do it. Scouser, not going to happen. Then why did he come here? And a cold call is not making a call. It's getting through to a seller. A person that can make a decision. And I told you what time of the day is to do it already, yesterday and the day before. You heard in Andreas's webinar, while he was working 50, 60 hours a week at his other job, and he was doing QLA 50, 60 hours a week, he said that he was still doing, I believe he said he averaged 56 cold calls a week while he was working, and he had already made acquisitions. And when you're in the throes of running the business and you made an acquisition and the seller lied to you and they're stealing the fucking linen and the toilet paper and the medical devices and all this shit, he was still doing 56 cold calls a week, which is 50 calls more or less than you need. Because he was serious. Well, he still is serious. He was serious. That's the program. 5 cold calls a day. With the scripts. Does anybody not understand that? 5 cold calls a day to the Hall of Fame. You've heard the Belgian Waffle say he made 500 cold calls in Belgium, didn't work, and then he made 700 cold calls in the Netherlands, and it worked. You've heard Andrea say 1,613 cold calls, and 5 deals came together all at once. I mean, for LOIs, not the deals completed. You heard Gabriel say he didn't keep track of the 14 deals that cratered, but for the 16 deals he cratered, whatever the number was, but I don't know, it was 8 or 9 or 100 or something like that. I could make 5 cold calls this is an exaggeration in 20 minutes. 4 minutes a call. But it's not much of an exaggeration. I know I have done, in the hardcore to show you guys, I've done 5 cold calls in an hour, like I took a piss. You give me the names. It's like a quiz show, you know. And somehow you can't get through to the gatekeeper with the same script I'm using. And then I get through the gatekeepers, as many as 3 great gatekeepers. You know, a gatekeeper, the people that keep you from talking to the people you want to talk to. And somehow I get through. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. Just, you know, because the kids weren't sure that, you know, maybe they had slipped, you know, like in the old days in the 60s and 70s, the quiz shows, you were given the answers, and it was big, you know, frauds. They didn't believe me. And then we got the autistic kid that thinks it's 2,000 calls a day, and he gets tennis elbow and golf elbow.